Anytime I drop the mic, I know my flow insane like a psycho.
I just want to let you know now it's about to pop. It's about to pop.
Uh-oh.
It's about to pop.
Uh-oh.
The lady said you're supposed to, like, the cage is what protects you. So she said,
really?
don't let the cage, yes. Because she's like, if you release the cage, it can just pop. Cynthia's like, oh my God, let's be careful, yes.
Loki scared, but also excited.
No, once I have it in my hand, that's the safety. All right.
Loki scared, but also
Are you ready?
excited.
Because it's coming up.
I'm ready.
I did not plan that.
We did not bargain for this. But while we're here,
Yes.
I just want to say I am so excited
Yes.
to be starting a podcast with one of my best friends in the world. And this is the first time. This is probably the first time I'm saying this in your presence. She probably doesn't know how much she means to me. But this right here means everything to me.
Oh, Cynthia, I mean the same thing. I'll touch you with my other hand, but it has champagne on it.
Yeah, we gotta do something with that. But for now, she's
Yes.
like relegated to just one hand use.
Yes, literally, really, truly.
Yes,
but
yes.
you know, I absolutely adore you. You already know that. And I absolutely love you with all of my, every little, even the little toenail. I love you so much. And truly, this is a dream come true. I love that we get to do this and then we get to experience it together.
Yes,
Because
yes.
again, it's like one of those things where we've experienced our 20s together.
We have.
And then now we get to build something in our 30s. As
I didn't even
which
think
I love.
about that.
Yes.
But you see
yes,
how we roll?
Yes.
But
so
anyways,
I'm excited.
Let's quickly introduce ourselves. I'm Cynthia.
I'm Jubilee.
And together we are
Two Naija Girls. Woo!
It also what happened, right? Like the champagne popped.
Absolutely not.
And honestly, I don't know what we're expecting because we literally popped champagne.
This is very true.
And the champagne kind of
very
popped, like as champagne often does.
Very true. Very true. But let's cheers.
Cheers!
To a beautiful new beginning and to even better things. I feel like we're going to be sitting here a few years from now and just be like, remember when we started? Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Hey!
Started from the bottom, now the whole... Hey! Okay.
Don't get us started. Don't get us started.
Well, we just drank the champagne. I'm already lit. Okay, so I just wanted to like talk about like how we came up with the name, like Two Naija Girls.
We're both bold, as you can see, kinda, right?
I love it.
So at first I thought about two bald girls, maybe. But I'm like, you know what? I'm about to grow out my hair now.
About to leave the bald game.
I'm like, I'm about to grow out my hair now, so that may not apply to me for much longer anymore.
True.
But I remember that we're both from Nigeria. That's where
Yes.
we're originally from.
Naija for life. Okay.
Jubilee, we're Nigerian-American, so to speak, if you want to put it that way. I live in Atlanta right now. She lives in Boston. But our Nigerian identity is something about us that's never going to change.
I agree.
And
I totally agree.
So that's why we settled on Two Naija Girls. And the longer version of that name is Two Naija Girls Talk About the World. Right? And here we are. Two Naija Girls. That's a part of our identity that's just never going to change, you know? So it's not like we're like Nigerian nationalists or anything. Or I mean,
Please, I'm not though. Hey, in the name of Jesus.
I don't know. Just saying.
I just wanted to say something. What's interesting that I love about our friendship and our dynamic is the fact that we were literally raised in the same city.
Yes.
Our entire childhood.
Yes, that's
like
true.
we're raised in Abuja, Nigeria. For those of you who don't know,
Yeah.
Abuja is the capital city. And we're raised in the same city and lived in that city, but we never met each other until we came to the US.
To the United States.
Yep.
That's true.
Yep. And it's so crazy because like we're sharing our experiences.
Yeah.
And as we share them, we have so many things in common.
Oh,
but
yeah.
at the same time also we have our differences as well.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what I think will make this actually fantastic.
What school did you go to in Los Angeles again?
I went to the New York Film Academy. I went for my master's program.
She went to the New York Film Academy. I went to the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. We studied, it wasn't vastly different because we were both
Yeah.
like in the arts, right? I studied PR, public relations, and you studied.
And I studied film.
And she studied theater. So this was almost kind of like a full circle moment.
It really is. It really is. Because I think that we like experienced LA together, and then you removed yourself from LA in that sense. And the moment I removed myself from LA as well, then we're able to reconnect and actually like just talk about all of this stuff. But not just that. Now start using our talents.
Right.
Because our parents paid school fees.
It's time for us to start using our talents for real. So now you all know that we're two Naija girls. You know a bit about our backgrounds. You know where we're from. You know how we met, kind of. We haven't really gone into how we met, but we will, I'm sure, either in this episode or in future episodes. So what are some things that you'd love to talk about on this podcast?
I want to talk about pop culture because I really do love talk about pop culture.
Yeah.
And I know for sure we're going to talk about Afrobeats because... Look, let me tell you something. You already know. I know people don't know this about me, but I am like a hardcore Nigerian to my core. Like, I don't play around with like Nigeria or Nigerians at all. Any other Nigerian, argue with yourselves. I can see you all. Argue with yourselves. Nigerians are just... We're
different. We're built different.
We are built different. But yeah, so I want us to talk about like Afrobeat. I want us to talk about and I know you're super invested in like the WNBA, and I'm learning so much about it from you. And I think this year I'm even more interested because of Angel Reese and the other girl. I'm so sorry, Caitlin Clark. Yeah. But Angel Reese is someone like I'm like a super fan of. Yeah. So it's like but I'm looking at her more from like pop culture, the pop culture side. And I love that you are actually talking about her skills, basketball itself, and that's
the thing with Angel Reese. She's more than just basketball.
Yes.
She's the kind of celebrity or artist or whatever athlete that crosses borders when it comes to pop culture. The most mind-blowing, in my opinion, collaboration she did recently was with the Wicked movie coming out. Oh. The Wicked movie with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande.
See, that's new information.
And she did a promotional piece. So I'm like, ooh, okay, where's that from?
That's literally new information for me.
New information, and for me, it was like a dream collaboration that I hadn't even dreamed about because I love theater. I love musicals and I love basketball, right? So that's the thing with Angel Reese. So yeah, just to piggyback off of some of the stuff Jubilee already shared, some of my interests are basketball. Yes. I love the WNBA. I'm a huge fan. I love movies, so that's part of pop culture too. I love film and TV, and then I love spirituality.
Oh yes. Yes, and actually I'll add also one thing that I'm now, like especially recently, I am so invested in is reinventing yourself. Ooh. I'm very big on like reinventing yourself, how to do it, how to get there, things like that. So I think that's something that I know for sure that we're going to talk about.
I know we're going to talk about that. We could even start now. So we've been through a journey, right? I've known Jubilee for 8 years now. We've gone from the 20s, which is a very interesting time in your life, to now our 30s, which is also an interesting time in your life for different reasons.
Absolutely.
And I feel like we're both in places in our lives right now where we're trying to, it's almost take the experience of the 20s, but not shed the experience of your childhood.
No, of course.
Right?
Of course.
So talk to me about just a brief, overview of what your journey has looked like so far. And as you said, reinventing yourself, what does that look like for you? What does that mean for you?
So it's one of those things where before I turned 30, I used to think that like if I did not do it before I was 30, then I had failed at it, right? So I carried that through my 20s. Like I need to always constantly do. And then in the process of like chasing this thing, whatever it is, I lost myself, where I lost the drive, I lost the zeal, but not just that, I allowed other people take over like my life to some degree, where it was like I had people take the light away from me, and I allowed it. That's the truth, because at the end of the day, right,
it doesn't happen unless you endorse it.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm grateful for that, because then when I stepped into my 30s, I needed to take a step back because I had lost so many people in the journey, like of getting to my 30s. And at some point I thought, I was like, you know what, God, you just hate me. You just absolutely hate me. You don't want me to make it in life. Like I know people that started after me. I know people that started with me and they have made it, but you just hate me.
Haven't we all been there?
I'm like, you have chosen me as the bad one. But I think the biggest thing that changed for me or changed my life completely was going to therapy. Therapy absolutely, like, let me tell you, me and my therapist, we are locked in, because I needed to sit with my own emotions. I needed to sit with my own thoughts. And then I constantly felt like everybody else was doing it to me. And I needed to sit down and ask myself, like, how did you contribute to this?
Take responsibility.
Yes, because when you don't take responsibility for your role in the things that you think other people have done to you,
that's good.
Then you're not able to heal from it and move forward.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was like, okay, Jubilee, what's this thing that you want for yourself, right? What is it? Because for me, like, I'll give you examples of things. And yes, marriage was never a thing that I wanted to do, never a thing that I wanted to be a part of or partake of. Having kids was never a thing that I wanted to partake of or want to be a part of. Like, just, I wanted to always be just a single, independent, strong woman who was just living her life and enjoying herself. Right? And I realized also that came from experiences and hurt and whatever it is that it is. Trauma as well, because, and then my trauma response obviously is like, I don't want to talk to any man. And there's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong, because I truly believe that every woman has the ability or whatever it is to choose what it is that she wants for her life. But I needed to like go to therapy. It's also helped me build boundaries, become more accountable for the things that I do, and also remove myself from feeling overwhelmed, right? And then also taking away anxiety, because that's something that I struggle with a lot that I did not want to talk about publicly, because I always felt like, oh, anxiety is one of those things, like, I'm sorry to say, right? Yes,
people normalize it.
But not just, I'm sorry to say, but like, sometimes, man, like, our families, sometimes they have the idea that if you have anxiety, hey, we don't used to have anxiety here, or you're like, oh, I'm talking to a therapist, you are paying somebody. You are paying somebody to listen to your problems.
Stigmatized.
Come and talk to me. I'm like, but you're not trained for it.
Right.
This is not your role. You don't know how to do it. And not just that, now I'm going to tell you that, and that becomes gossip for the rest of you. And every time I tell you something is wrong, you're gonna be like, hey, wasn't all you that said in 1982 that? And so I think therapy is one of the biggest things that changed my life. Do you feel like you have reinvented yourself so far?
I would say I'm in the process.
Okay.
I would say I'm in the process of reinventing myself, and our journeys are very similar. I don't know. So I also went to therapy. In 2020, anxiety morphed into insomnia. I had never had issues sleeping before that, and so that was like my sign to get help, to seek help. Thankfully, the first person who reached back out to me had a similar background as me, and we clicked. And I was in therapy for 3 years. I was in therapy actually until my therapist went on maternity leave.
Okay.
And then when she went on maternity leave, and we talked about this before she went on maternity leave, I said, I feel like this is a season for me to cultivate self-trust. I feel like this is a season, right? I think it's a season and I feel like the stars were aligning to allow that to happen, right? So again, similar to you, what I lost myself in was work. I lost myself in a lot of, I'm a known workaholic. People still call me a workaholic. I've chilled, and people still call me a workaholic, you know? I'm way more chill than I used to be, and I still get called a workaholic.
This is why they are not your therapist.
You know what I mean? You know? But what I found was that, and what I found has been a theme throughout my life, is that there's always a part of me that rebels against becoming something that I'm not. And Jubilee knows this story. That's why I've quit several jobs. You know that. I quit my job in Los Angeles, moved to Atlanta, and you know, I'd never been to Atlanta before I moved to Atlanta.
True.
And just literally built a new life in Atlanta. Right? Again, there was something about that job that was beginning to rob me of me. And there's this moment where that part of me just snaps. Like the part of me that really knows who I am, that knows who I really am, always fights against morphing into something I'm not, right? So people always wanted us for our talent. So I've been in many rooms. I've been in rooms with very influential people, very wealthy people. And there's always this air of, how is she so confident? When I'm in rooms like that, because people for some reason expect you to appear smaller to earn their favor. But to me, whether you are president or janitor, I treat you the same. If you're a good person, I treat you nicely.
President, general, among the nations. Go ahead.
So I treat you the same, right? And I think that's part of our upbringing too, like our, you know, Nigerian upbringing. And I know my mom always told me nobody has two heads, or you know, things like that. They're like,
the only celebrity you know is who? Jesus.
Jesus is our only celebrity, you know. so those things I never really like fell for them, and so of course, like inevitably for people who were egotistical, I always ended up falling out with them. And so after the last falling out, I had to do some introspection, and I burned out again. You know, I started to find myself hating the things that I usually love: production, recording, content creation. And again, when you get to that point, and this is what I teach people, when you get to that point, you have to ask yourself some questions. What are you doing, or how are you doing what you're doing that doesn't align with who you really are?
Yeah.
And so what has happened is, over the past couple of months, I've rediscovered myself, rediscovered the things that I love, rediscovered who I am. I've discovered that, you know what, all I want to do in this life is have fun and be a baby for life. You know? I'm a baby for life.
I want to be a baby girl.
Baby for life. You know. So here we are.
So I have a question for you, because I'm hearing what you're saying. Do you think that, because again, I've known you, so that's why I'm asking the question of like, when something's not working, right, and you're like, that's not working for me, I'm removing myself from that. Do you think that speaks into your attachment style? Because that could be
That's a great question.
But it could also come from, I do not want something that does not serve me. Because it's a very thin line between saying, I'm going to walk away from something that does not serve me. And it could also be like my attachment style. If something makes me uncomfortable, I already feel like we're going to have... I'll remove myself immediately and detach myself from it.
That's a great question. I will say that I'm very good at setting boundaries.
Okay.
However, I do not quickly cut people off, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I do know that I used to have anxious attachment style.
Okay.
That used to be my attachment style. But I don't know that the way that I handle professional situations is the same way that I handle other kinds of relationships. Because I'm the girl who's friends with all her exes.
Oh!
All of them. There's no one you talk to today and they will say, oh, I hate her or whatever. You know, because the mentality I've always had is that it doesn't matter what happened between us. It doesn't mean you're a bad person necessarily. It just means things didn't work out. I'd like to hear what you think of that.
Have you seen my story time?
You sound like you have some thoughts.
Have you seen all my story time?
It sounds like you have some thoughts on that. So, okay, talk to me.
I have exes that were friends. We're not friends, but we're cordial. Where if I run into them, we'll be good. We'll be fine. Hello. Yeah. Then I have exes that hate to see me coming. I have exes that hate to see me coming. There are exes that I know for sure that there's no way we will be friends. Because some of you are the reason why I'm in fucking therapy. Some of you are the reason why I'm in therapy, asking and questioning myself and thinking if I'm the problem. Meanwhile, you're the problem. And I did not understand that you're the problem. And I really want to say this to people in their 20s. There's time. There's time, because my entire 20s... No, there really is, because my entire 20s, all I kept on hearing is like, oh, when are you going to marry? Who is your boyfriend? What kind of boyfriend are you? What, like, it felt like before you get to 30 and you do not get married or you do not have like your life all the way together, then you have failed. And that is a lie that someone has sold to us. The same person who sold us adulthood is the same person who has sold women the idea that once you're in your 30s, your life is over. And your life is most certainly not over. And in fact, your 30s are when you actually like know who you are. Like your 30s, and that's when you... Because your 20s are, and I know, like some people mature, and especially like when you're a first daughter or women generally mature very quickly, right? And that's why you're forced into feeling like your 20s where you have to like really just catch up constantly. And I can only speak from a woman's perspective only because that's my experience. And I can only speak from being raised by Nigerian parents because, again, that's what I was exposed to and that's my experience as well. But it's one of those things where you're constantly playing catch up, right? And then you get to your 30s or you get married to somebody in your 20s and then you're just like so unhappy. Because you haven't even figured out who you are as a person. You haven't figured out what your likes and dislikes are.
Probably what happened to most of our parents, if we're being honest.
No, really, because now I empathize with my mom. Me and I had this conversation.
We did.
I empathize with my mom more because I'm realizing that this woman had 4 children in her 20s. Right? Before she turned 30 something, she was already with 4 kids. If you give me 4 kids right now, we're gonna have a problem. Because where do I start from? You know, but to think that somebody already have 4 kids, they already like had to figure all of that stuff out. It's just, it's so much to unpack. There's so much to unpack there.
Which actually brings me to the next topic, right? You talked, and I think you already alluded to it. Cosplaying adulthood, right? So one of the things I realized was, and the question I've been asking, and I still don't have a definitive answer to that question, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, is, does adulthood really get serious, or do we make adulthood serious because we're used to seeing adulthood become serious, right? So whenever people talk about adulting, it's usually about the difficulties that come with adulting and stuff like that. So does that become a self-fulfilling prophecy for us, right? In my case, for instance, there are a lot of my hobbies that I had stopped participating in. I just recently picked them up again because I felt like I had to be an adult, right? So there's this idea of what adulthood looks like to some of us, and we follow that idea or that ideal at the expense of who we really are and what we're here to do, how we are here to be. So what are your thoughts on that? Deep.
Adulting, I truly believe is a scam.
Woo!
I really do. But unfortunately, even if you go right now and you tell a 13, 16, 18-year-old this, they're not going to believe you.
True, until they experience it for themselves.
They're going to think you're just making this shit. Because they really think about it.
Yeah.
When you're younger, all you can think about is leaving your parents' house. All you can think about is, I cannot wait to be grown and leave my parents' house. I cannot wait to be grown and leave my parents' house. So nobody can stop that, whatever. But here's what I can say. I think paying bills is what makes adulthood hard. Because really think about it, right? If somebody says to you today, you no longer have to pay one bill in your life. You are set for life, and this is how much you get as an allowance every month. Guess what's gonna happen? You're never gonna think about adulthood. When someone says adulthood is a scam, you can never relate to it. Why? Because the things that make the responsibilities that make adulthood what it is, and the reason why we're all saying like adulthood is so difficult, whatever, blah, 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 it's not easy. And which goes back to the conversation we're having about our parents, right? Where it's like now you're able to empathize with your parents, because in the beginning when you were a kid, you used to think that your parents were like the people who just hated you, did not want your dreams to come true, but they were doing the best that they could with the situation that they had. Imagine at 21, my mom already had me. She was now like, you know what I mean? A mother to a child, trying to figure out her entire home, moved from her father's house where everything was provided for her. Don't get me wrong, she married with my dad, and my dad provided for my mom as much, like provided everything she wanted was provided for her. But then there's the responsibility of like, this child is now my responsibility. I have to give this child, I have to figure all of those things. So I think that the bill paying and the taking care of, that's what makes adulthood challenging. I don't want to say difficult, I want to say challenge. That's what makes it super, super challenging, because truly, like I said, if somebody takes away all of those things from you, you're gonna be cruising through life.
So I will say I agree, that's very valid. There's something and I've told Jubilee about this, there's something I am getting into now, and this thing called the law of attraction and the law of assumption, right? And the fact that even the idea of adulting is something that we're conditioned into thinking adulting is. And of course, when you assume it and you believe that that's what it is, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I don't have a conclusion on that, but I just wanted to introduce that idea because that's something else that we'll be talking a lot about on this podcast. And I'll be telling you all about my experiences with the law of attraction and the law of assumption.
This has been great. This has been awesome. Honestly, I feel like the questions help because it kind of helps you get to know the person that you're talking. And even if we already know each other, it's good because it kind of gives you like an insight into our lives and stuff. So I really appreciate that.
An insight into our lives, and like just catching up, so to speak. Even if like honestly, like Jubilee said, whenever we talk, like the first day I arrived, till like 1 a.m. We never run out of things to say. But anyways, this has been Two Naija Girls. Talk about the world. There'll be many more episodes of us talking about the world. We're going to be talking about a wide range of things. If you guys have anything specific you'd like us to talk about, feel free to email us at the email address on the screen, and we'll talk about it in a future episode.
God did his wow. Okay, sorry, I'm just looking at myself and I'm just like, God did what he did. God did his big one. I am obsessed with myself.
As you should, though. As you should be.
So. This is Nigerian in me. We did it.